I thought sleepwalking was normal? Until I saw where I've been going. Sleepwalking was always harmless. At least, that's what he believed. A quirk, a funny story to tell in the morning. But when strange bruises began appearing on his skin and dirt caked beneath his nails, curiosity turned into dread. Determined to discover the truth, he set up cameras to record his nighttime wanderings. What he found wasn't proof of sleepwalking, but evidence of something else guiding his movements, something watching and waiting. Nathan had never questioned his sleepwalking. As a child, it was a family joke, like the time he woke up on the kitchen floor with cereal poured around him as if he planned a midnight feast. His parents would laugh, reassure him it was normal, and put him back to bed. But adulthood had turned the harmless habit into something far more unsettling. It began after he moved into his new apartment, a small, aging building tucked at the edge of town, near woods that stretched endlessly into dark isolation. He chose the unit for its affordability and silence. He didn't realize that silence often hides what noise reveals. The first incident was almost unnoticeable. Nathan woke with cold feet and realized he'd slept without socks, though he distinctly remembered wearing them. Tiny detail, easy to ignore. But the second time, he found mud smeared on his sheets and dead leaves tangled in his hair. A prickling sensation crawled across his skin. He lived on the third floor. How could he go outside without unlocking doors or waking up? He convinced himself that stress played tricks. The new job, long hours, unfamiliar environment. Maybe sleepwalking resurfaced as a coping mechanism. Yet the third event began to stir fear. He awoke kneeling in the middle of his living room, fingernails torn and bleeding, palms scraped raw like he'd been clawing at something. There were scratches on the hardwood floor, thin, deep, and fresh. His heart pounded as he followed the trail to the front door. The chain lock dangled, swinging slightly. The key remained in the deadbolt on the inside, turning on its own in the draft. Had he stood here, middle of the night, unlocking the door like a puppet? He called his mother, trying to hide the tremor in his voice. She told him sleepwalking could escalate under stress, advised putting alarms on doors. He thanked her, trying to let her calm tone soothe him, but beneath his skin, panic continued crawling. The next morning brought bruises along his ribs, yellowing but tender. He noticed scratches behind his knees as if branches lashed him. He tried to recall his dreams, but his mind was frustrated emptiness, blank as a wiped slate. Unable to shake unease, he purchased small motion sensory cameras, cheap models placed in his bedroom, living room, and near the apartment door. If his sleepwalking had taken a dangerous turn, he needed to know. The first night recording played normally. Nathan tossed, turned, and twice sat upright in bed as though listening. His blank stare toward the wall made his chest tighten. But he remained in the room. Nothing beyond unsettling. Night 2 changed everything. Nathan woke feeling watched. The apartment unusually cold. Before checking cameras, he pulled his blanket aside and froze. His feet were coated in dried mud. His pajama pants torn near the ankles. A faint smell of wet earth clung to him. His skin prickled in a way he couldn't rationalize. With trembling hands, he opened the camera footage. At 2:17 a.m., his body sat up rapidly, unnaturally quick, like a puppet yanked upright. His head turned toward the bedroom door before his feet hit the floor simultaneously, making no sound. He stood completely still for several seconds. Slowly, painfully slowly, his head twisted back, facing the camera. Nathan's breath caught when he saw his own sleepwalking reflection. Yes, the eyes were open, but there was nothing behind them. No recognition. No humanity. Just a blank stare from a body that was not truly awake. Then he moved. He walked to the living room camera, stood before it, tilted his head to the side, the exact angle of curiosity one might use when observing something foreign. His lips parted as if whispering, but the camera recorded no audio. After a tense minute, he went to the front door, raised one hand, and unhooked the chain lock without hesitation. He walked out, leaving the door wide open behind him. Nathan watched the front door live feed next. The hallway was dim but empty when he stepped out. Yet something else appeared in the corner of the frame. A shadow near the stairwell, amorphous but deliberate, shifting like smoke forced into a human form. Nathan's sleeping body slowly turned its head toward it, like acknowledging a silent signal, and then walked down the stairs obediently. At 4:03 a.m., the footage showed his return. His posture was different. Shoulders hunched, head down, and someone walked behind him. But that figure never fully captured on camera. Only a glimpse, bare feet, pale skin, and long dark hair slipping out of view as if retreating into the shadows. Nathan couldn't breathe. His head spun. Every instinct screamed danger. He stared at the time stamp. Almost 2 hours unaccounted for. His phone screen smeared mud where he held it. His fingers trembled so violently he nearly dropped it when he noticed something else. His bedroom door slammed shut in the footage moments after he re-entered, though his sleepwalking body had not touched it. He replayed that moment again and again. The door simply moved on its own. Nathan tried convincing himself there must be a logical cause. Camera glitch, light tricks. But deep inside, reason silenced itself. Only terror spoke. Later that day, he considered contacting a doctor or sleep specialist. But embarrassment outweighed urgency. He didn't want strangers labeling him mentally unstable. Instead, he showered until hot water ran out and stared at the mirror afterward, searching for some explanation in his own expression. He saw exhaustion, fear, confusion. Night approached swiftly and with dread. He contemplated sleeping with lights on, or not sleeping at all. But fatigue dragged heavily on his eyelids. He promised himself he'd wake up if he moved involuntarily again, a promise the unconscious never honors. At 1:53 a.m., Nathan's eyes opened without waking him. His body rose again, quickly, and froze beside the bed, facing the dark corner near the closet. Slowly, his head drooped forward, as if bowing to someone unseen. Then he began walking, not toward the door, but toward the mirror leaning against his wall. His hand lifted, palm pressed to the glass. In the footage, his body shuddered lightly, as though resisting something. But the pressure increased. His reflection wavered, not matching his movements exactly. Then he turned away, avoiding the camera's view, and left the room again. Nathan awoke face down on the kitchen tile before sunrise. His jaw ached. His fists clenched. His chest heaving as if he'd run miles. And beneath him, fresh mud smeared across the floor. He sat up, desperate to recall anything. Only one hazy memory surfaced, the sensation of hands, large, cold, and strong, guiding his arms like he wasn't allowed control. A whisper he almost recognized but couldn't translate. He staggered to the living room and paused, dread curling around his spine. The front door was wide open. A breeze carried damp forest air into his home. Something had followed him again, or worse, led him out. His heart hammered so loudly it drowned out silence. He turned toward the television where a reflection glimmered faintly in the black screen. For a moment, he thought he wasn't alone. Nathan's fear transformed into fixation. The footage haunted him, but ignorance was worse. He needed answers, even if the truth ruined his sanity. He secured every lock, set an alarm on his bedroom door, and placed heavier furniture against the entrance. Then he taped the edges of his windows, hoping to see if any barrier had been disturbed. Paranoia became ritual, a desperate attempt to restore control to a life slipping from his grasp. But that night, sleep hit him like a hammer. The camera recorded his body lying still for hours, motionless. Then at 3:02 a.m., something changed. The blankets shifted, as though an invisible weight pressed down on his chest. His legs twitched. His breathing turned ragged. Then his body rolled onto its side and stiffened. Slowly, like a marionette lifted by strings, he rose, floating inches above the mattress before his feet touched the floor soundlessly. The alarm never triggered. The furniture didn't move. He simply bypassed every obstacle meant to confine him. In the morning, Nathan woke outside, standing in the woods. The air was wet with morning fog, soaking his shirt. His feet were freezing and scratched, sinking into soft moss. Panic erupted as he realized he had no knowledge of how he arrived here. Tall trees surrounded him, stretching endlessly, and between them, Broken branches formed a narrow path leading deeper. He stared at it, heart pounding in terror and fascination. Dirt stuck under his nails. His arms covered in fresh cuts. Something dragged him here. Something familiar enough that his sleeping body followed willingly. He turned back, desperate to find the road. But something deeper inside whispered a chilling suggestion. He had not sleepwalked out of his home. He had been led. Breathing hard, he walked back toward civilization, trying to shake the feeling of unseen eyes tracking his every step. His body felt heavy, sore, as if he'd carried a weight through the forest for hours. Returning home, he saw the living room camera on the floor. The bedroom camera lay shattered, lens cracked like a spider web. The frames showed static, then darkness. Something didn't want him documenting the truth anymore. That evening, Nathan refused to sleep. He sat on the couch, lights on, eyes burning from exhaustion yet determined. Midnight passed. Then 1 a.m. He nodded off for seconds at a time, jerking awake with dread. At 2 a.m., fatigue finally crushed him. He woke again in darkness. But he wasn't in bed. His eyes fluttered open to the oppressive blackness of his closet. He felt the hangers brushing his shoulders. Clothes pressed against his face as if the walls themselves were breathing. Something moved beneath his feet. No, something moved beside him. He swallowed a scream, and a sickening truth dawned on him. Whatever shared the closet with him wasn't human. There was space behind his back that shouldn't exist. A depth stretching into a cold void. Then fingers, ice cold and bony, brushed his shoulder. The door creaked open from the outside, and Nathan stumbled onto the floor, gasping. The room was silent, empty, but he didn't feel alone. The darkness seemed to cling longer than shadows should. He ran toward the bathroom, flicked on the light. His reflection stared back, tormented, sleepless. But his reflection blinked slower, a fraction later than he did. And when he leaned closer, the reflection's lips curled into a faint smile of mockery. Nathan stumbled back, breath hitching. He slammed the medicine cabinet shut to block the mirror. He sat with his head in his hands, tears of panic spilling without consent. As dawn came, he noticed markings on his bedroom wall near the floor. Thin scratches forming shapes, patterns. Kneeling, he examined them, and ice surged through his veins as he realized they formed symbols. Crude, repeated sigils etched in clusters. He didn't remember carving anything, but the rawness of his fingertips suggested otherwise. Nathan spent the day researching sleep disorders, dissociation, neurological explanations. But nothing explained the camera footage. Nothing explained arriving in the woods. Nothing explained the cold hands. By nightfall, the woods tugged at his mind like a magnet. He slammed his windows shut, barricaded the door again. But dread consumed him, the anticipation of losing control again. Sleep found him quickly. At 2:59 a.m., cameras recorded nothing, because they didn't exist anymore. But Nathan remembered. The first memory he'd ever retained from a night terror surfaced, vivid and torturous. He walked again. Through the hallway. Past the door he thought he locked. Down the stairs. Out into the night. Toward the trees, drawn like prey following its predator. The air grew colder with each step. The forest opened, revealing a clearing he had never seen. Moonlight illuminated something horrific. A massive hollow in the earth. A deep pit surrounded by claw marks. Shapes moved inside it. Shapes that wore the silhouettes of people, but their limbs bent wrong, too long, too thin. Their heads jerked in unnatural angles as if strings held them up. They stared at Nathan, not with eyes, but with empty, glistening sockets. Then he saw her. A woman, frail, hair hanging like a curtain of wet ropes, walked toward him. Her feet dragged through the leaves, leaving behind deep trenches. Skin paler than moonlight, lips cracked open wider than a human mouth should allow. She stopped inches from him. Her voice shattered the silence inside his skull. "You belong to us." Hands gripped his shoulders. Not hands from her, but from behind. The things in the pit began climbing out, exposing jagged teeth and twisted spines. They pulled, and pulled, and pulled. Nathan's conscious mind woke then, screaming in his bed, soaked in sweat. His shoulders bore the deep indent of large fingers. Fresh bruises formed instantly, shaped like those hands. He stumbled toward the front door and swung it open, trying to breathe fresh air. But the hallway light flickered and sputtered before extinguishing entirely. Slow, dragging footsteps approached from the stairwell, wet, heavy, and undeniably real. Heart pounding, Nathan rushed back into his apartment, slamming the door and pressing his body against it. The footsteps paused directly outside his door. Scratching began, slow at first, then frantic. A deep groan echoed, vibrating through the wood. A whisper seeped through the cracks. Time to come home. The locks clicked, one after another, unlocking themselves. Nathan backed away, tears streaming, begging his legs to move faster. But his body stiffened, paralyzed. The air grew frigid. The door swung open. Standing in the threshold was his own sleepwalking form. But the thing controlling it wasn't hiding anymore. Pale shadows wriggled beneath his skin. His head twisted too far, chin angling toward his shoulder, and from his mouth poured dirt, leaves, and tiny white bones. His eyes, empty black pits, fixated on Nathan. His own voice spoke, layered with others. "We've been waiting." The figure lunged. Nathan never remembered anything after that. The next morning, neighbors complained about noise, a crash, a scream, but officers found the apartment empty. The locks were broken. Furniture overturned. Mud and dried blood smeared across the floor. The cameras remained shattered. Nathan was gone. But weeks later, hikers passing through the distant woods found a new path carved into the earth. A narrow trail of footprints leading toward a fresh, grave-like hollow. Claw marks etched the edges. The cameras remained shattered. Nathan was gone. But weeks later, hikers passing through the distant woods found a new path carved into the earth. A narrow trail of footprints leading toward a fresh, grave-like hollow. Claw marks etched the edges. And overhead, carved into the bark of a nearby tree, were the same symbols from Nathan's bedroom, crude markings reminding whoever found them. He was not the first. He won't be the last. Because the woods are patient. And night terrors always return home. Sleepwalking may seem harmless, until you realize something else might be guiding the body while the mind sleeps. If you wake up exhausted, bruised, or somewhere you shouldn't be, don't ignore it. Something may already be watching, waiting for the night you can't wake up from. If you survive this story, hit subscribe, because the next nightmare might be yours. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep tonight.